Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined by Cam Taylor again, and we are talking today about grieving. And Cam, he's a grief coach, and this is his specialty. The Good Grief Journey is the name of his company. He is based out of British Columbia in Canada, but working with people worldwide, really, to help you educate, to support, to guide you to healthy grieving and a path that can really help you discover how to live life again after whatever loss that may be. So, welcome back today, Cam. How's everything?
Things are going well. Great to be back again.
Well, good to see you. And just a little bit about you as a grief coach. I know we've got to know each other personally the past few weeks, but for someone tuning in today for the first time, just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Yeah, what I like to say that I do is I really like to come alongside people and give them hope for a future. And oftentimes that hopelessness comes because of loss, because of adversity, because of some difficulties that they've had. And so I've gone through a number of losses myself, including the loss of my wife to kidney cancer in 2020. And I also had a very serious motorcycle accident
Ah,
back in 2011, I experienced so much loss of
mm-hmm.
work and mobility and
Yep.
the things that I had loved. And so I've learned so much, and I'm at the stage in my life now where I really want to give that back to others and help them in some of the same ways I received help, knowing that their story is going to be totally different. But yet I really believe I can give them some of that encouragement and support that people need.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And for today, we're going to talk a little bit about, treating sadness, you say, as your friend while grieving to start, right?
Yeah, let me jump into that particular topic, which when I first experienced my own loss, especially this massive loss of my lifelong friend, 36 years married, when she died, and as even this anticipatory grief, leading up to her loss, and it was this overwhelming sadness that I'd never had at that level before.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, is there any way to kind of get away from that or skirt around it? Or can't I feel better in my grief? Was kind of my
Yeah.
thought. And I didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. But then I realized, and I really had some help through a fellow by the name of George Bonanno, who wrote a book. I'm not sure I've got the name quite right, but he talked about the other side of sadness is actually the name of the book, and he said in there that sadness something built. So let me give you. I just got some three ideas here that really helped me, and I maybe it'll
Sure.
help you if you're in a place where you sadness has just overwhelmed you and you want to run, you want to get away from it. I want to give you some encouragement that actually that's the very friend that you need right now. And it could
Okay.
be a friend of yours that's sad and you don't know what to do with it. And I want to encourage you that are supporting those grieving, let sadness in. So the first reason how sadness helps is it actually slows us down
Okay.
because
Yeah.
there's something happens in our bodies when we feel overwhelmed by sadness that we kind of shut out the things that are all around us and all we can think about is how we're feeling, and that's actually a gift because otherwise you'd be going off in all these different directions with this and that thought. But sadness becomes a way, it's a bodily trigger, I guess, that says forget about everything else right now. You need to slow down and reflect. So that's one definitely benefit, I guess, or way that sadness is a friend. Another one is it does give us a reality check that helps us eventually accept the loss. And one thing that is I've learned as I've grieved myself and learned about other people that are grieving, especially those that are stuck, which we're going to come back to being stuck a bit later. But those that are unable to actually accept that somebody is gone and and that could be any kind of a loss. The job is gone, the money is gone, the my loved one is gone. The sooner you can actually get to that point of saying, you know what, they're gone and they're not coming back, the sooner you're going to be able to move forward with the memory of that. And that's what sadness can help bring, is that acceptance. And one other quick one is sadness lets other people know that you need empathy and need support. Because when you're sad, your body often tells that story, doesn't it? You look kind of like you're pouting is one way it's described. But that actually opens the door, if you let it, to having other people come and just listen and support and provide you with some empathy and a listening ear and someone that you can tell your story to. So that's a little bit. So I just want to encourage you to,
No.
if you're having a hard time with sadness, take a different perspective, and see it as a friend.
Got it. Well, we are around the holidays. Let's talk about this because there seems to be a
Yeah.
lot more grieving or a lot more loss, feeling of loss, or, during the holidays, it's always difficult. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Maybe give us some tips on how to get through some of the hardest times of
Yeah.
the year?
Yeah, and I know that there's multiple holidays coming up. There's American Thanksgiving next week, and then Christmas is upon us. And I mean, already we just see Christmas everywhere, and all the lights and the stores are all decked out, and they're trying to get us to think Christmas. And I know that it can be such a difficult time because you're coming up to a time of year that's meant to be a happy time, but it's not a happy time. And if you've had a loss, especially even in the last year or even can be years ago, this time of year can actually be a time when you want to sort of pull in and pull away from a lot of things. And you don't know how to deal with it. And I just this week in the grief group that I was facilitating, I was asking the group, so what are you going to do this Christmas? How are you going to cope with it? And I heard just a lot of different ideas, and I want to give just a few tips of my own that I found helpful, and other people are as well. The one is plan, expect to grieve. Expectations can really be a killer sometimes, especially either if they're too high or they're too low. And so, why don't you just expect that grieving will be a
Mm-hmm.
part of your holiday season and welcome that grief? And I've said this before, when grief comes knocking at the door, open the door. Because if you don't open the door and just let grief come in and be a part of your life, it will come back later and it may not look the same and it may be uglier than it
Mm-hmm.
is right now. So expect to grieve and don't expect it to be a precise way. Just be open to the rise and fall and even expect potentially joyful moments and be open to those as well, which I think we don't always do well with joy when we're grieving. I want to say, can you take both of those? Take joy in one hand, take grief in the other hand, and walk into this holiday season. And don't expect grief one day, joy the next, but just be ready that both of those are okay
Yeah,
and you want to embrace them.
got it.
Another idea is make sure as much as you can to include other people in your life and in your plans. As I said earlier, it's easy to sort of withdraw and feel like I just can't handle being around people. I'm so sad. I miss my loved one. It's not going to be the same, the meal or the lights or the special times that we had together. But as much as you can, include other people. And maybe that means some new people that you could build some relationships or with people that are going to support you and show you love and kindness this Christmas. Be open up to that. And please be kind to yourself. What is that? That might look like get out a Christmas movie and watch it because you knew at one point in your life you actually enjoyed it. That's a way to show kindness to yourself. And you may not feel the same level of joy as before, but if it's something you genuinely might enjoy, just give it a chance and just see what happens. And by doing that, you're showing self-care and kindness to yourself. And another thing that you can do at Christmas time is strengthen the memories of the person that you've lost. And maybe there's some ways you can do that actually physically. Like, what about creating a special ornament that you could
Ah,
hang on your tree in memory of that person? I know that a lot of hospices, local hospices, will have different events where you can come and you can celebrate the loved one, maybe plant a tree or make an ornament or even around the house. We did this the first Christmas after my wife passed away, my daughter and I.
ah,
We actually drove an hour into the city and we bought this special vegan roast that my wife loved. And we brought it back and we cooked that for dinner, for the Christmas dinner. And that really created this, yeah, we wish she was there with us for sure. But it was like our way of celebrating her life and what she loved. We used to do a lot of Christmases that were vegan, like full on vegan Christmases. Now, her family didn't really like it too much, but we learned to appreciate that about her, that some of this food was actually very good, and I loved it myself. So create special memories,
yeah.
whatever that might look like for you. Those are a few
Okay.
ideas.
Beautiful. Now, how do you keep from getting stuck while grieving? I know we're going to talk about that, and also the role of gratitude while grieving as well. Very important.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I wanted to say too is I just wanted to touch on if you are a family member who is supporting or a friend supporting somebody grieving at this holiday season, let me just say a couple things. The one is when you're with that person, now you'll want to know the person that they're okay with it, but
Yeah.
say the name of the person who you've lost.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of talking about it. It just came up this week in our grief group where it was a mom with her kids and she was encouraging her family members to actually talk about
Yeah.
that loved one. Don't keep it from the kids, right? So say the name. Don't ask, just go and do something. Like, what if the husband has passed away and there's nobody to put up the Christmas lights this year? Just drive over there and say, where are the lights? Can I put them up? Don't ask, just do. Bring a meal, bring a
Yeah.
gift, surprise them. And definitely hold off on advice giving.
Yeah.
And I could talk for a whole hour on empathy blockers or things not to do when you're with grieving people. And this is definitely one of them. Just forget about giving any advice as to what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they should try at Christmas time. Only maybe if they ask, and then only speak sparingly. But that's one thing. Don't give advice. Just show up. Just be present. And just be willing to help at the holiday season. Maybe with the planning or invite them to your event, to your house. That happened to me in my first Christmas. I was invited over to my friend's house who he had lost his
Aw.
wife a few years before that. And they welcomed me into their whole family on Christmas. And it just meant the world to me. I was still feeling sad, but they welcomed me into their circle, and it made such a huge difference.
Now, let
Now, do
me
you want me to
all.
go back to the
Oh,
stuck part?
go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Go. Whatever's next. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't want to interrupt, but I just came back to that. So let's talk about this idea of stuck because it totally happens, and I felt like there were times when I got stuck when I was grieving because it's this idea that's two steps forward, one step back, and you're wondering, am I doing okay? Am I grieving well? Am
Mm-hmm.
I missing something? And there's a lot of apprehension and just wondering about how well am I doing in my grief? And I don't know if you're going to know that all of the time, but let me give you some guidance so that you don't actually get stuck in your grief because stuck can actually become a place that you stay for a very long time. They say that 15% of those that have had a loss actually do get stuck, and then it becomes more chronic grief or complicated grief.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need actually a higher level of support, often therapy, and it gets more difficult to get unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is just try to avoid getting stuck if you can, if at
Okay.
all possible. And one idea for that is be aware of the places where we get stuck when we're grieving.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of those places? Just because you're probably asking that. Well, one is um, don't ever sink into this place that says, nobody else understands what I'm going through.
True.
And I
Yep.
talked about this in a previous podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize the fact that, you're not alone. There's many people like you. And one way to keep reminding yourself is find the stories of the people. I
Mm-hmm.
was just I went to a TED talk the other day and I heard a lady, because I was Googling, tell me about grief. And I the phrase, you don't get over your grief, you what? What do you do with it? And I just did a Google search and this TED talk showed up. And this woman who's lost a number of family members was talking about how we don't ever get over our grief, but we move forward with it.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
little seed, and I was preparing for my grief group that I was going to be leading this week. And I know I did that very same thing back when I was in the throes of my deepest sadness. I would look for ideas. I would look for people that could inspire me, examples of others who had grieved. And little ideas like that, if we can find them and hang on to them, it can just help us take one little baby step so that we don't
Mm-hmm.
get stuck in I'm all alone.
Ah.
This is a big one, and this George Bonanno in his book talks about, this 15%. He says one of the characteristics of those 15%, and I want to get it right, I've written it down here. They want nothing but to have that person back. They yearn for that person with their entire being. And so what that's saying is that you can get stuck if you're not able to let that person go and accept the fact that they are not coming back, that
Yeah.
you need to move on with your life without them. That's a huge indicator that if you're feeling that way for too long, it's normal to feel that way. But when you feel that way for too long and
Yeah.
it goes on and on and on, then that's a sign that stuck is starting to take over.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some ideas. You want some more?
Yeah. Sure. Whatever
I'll
you
keep
got
going.
time for, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I just a couple more I think that can be helpful. The one is important to put in routines in your life that will help create healthy space for grieving. And I know sometimes it's not always possible to build this kind of margin or stillness or space where you can grieve, but as much as possible, don't just get so busy that you don't have time to feel your grief, to process it, to have it validated, and to be able to care for yourself. That'll be a sure way to stay stuck and not properly and thoroughly grieve so that you can eventually, move through it. And then I think one more idea here, and I can so resonate with this because I've my whole life I've dealt with, and I'm much better now than I used to be. This idea that failure, when I fail, I'm a failure, is how I used to feel. Now I've changed over the course of much hard work. When I fail, I learn. And when you're grieving, you don't always get it right. Some days, you just maybe do the wrong thing, make a bad choice, and do something that, oh, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. I remember one time I was talking to my neighbors about my wife's kidney cancer, and they started giving advice, which it was the worst thing to do. And they talked
Yeah.
about some friend of theirs that went to some clinic down somewhere in some state, and they were healed or it was all cured. And I tore a strip off of them that I regret.
Ah.
Because now, yeah, sure, I had every right to do it, but what I learned from that was,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't feel very good about, tearing a strip off of them. even though they deserved it and they shouldn't have done it. But what I learned was, you know what? Next time that happens, I'm just going to turn around and walk away. And I will kind of preserve my kindness by not tearing a strip off them. So we're going to fail. You're going to do things that you wish you hadn't. Just be kind to yourself and say, you know what? I can learn from that. Failure is not final. Failure can be a stepping stone to learning and to taking the next step and ultimately, eventually, finding solid ground that you can stand on.
Aw, thank you so much. Well, still have more time here, but I'm not sure if we're going to get through everything. So continue at your pace. Do you want to talk about more the role of gratitude while grieving? What blocks you from showing empathy to those you care about?
Well, let me go with the gratitude one, I think, and just spend the rest of our time on that one because I think that can relate to those grieving as well as those that are really encouraging those who are grieving is to really create uh, a culture or create this atmosphere that we look for what we are grateful for. You have to watch it though. If you're the person
Yeah.
supporting the grieving person, you need to let them kind of drive the bus and take the lead on it. But you can also approach it with a an attitude of optimism or not
Okay.
attitude of looking for the bright lights that are still shining in the situation, even as a friend. But let's talk about the person, if this might be you today, the person that is grieving and trying to sort out, trying to find their way. And I learned early on that one of the ways that I was able to kind of get myself out of a hole that I'd kind of fallen into on the journey of grief, which is not a bad analogy. There are these potholes we fall into, or ditches, is to actually practice gratitude. And I know the phrase, I learned this phrase back when I was recovering from one of my many surgeries after my motorcycle accident. I would come to after my surgery and I would say, you know, I'm going to focus on what I have left,
Yeah.
not what I've
What?
lost.
That's a hard one. I know, right?
Yeah, so hard. But with practice, I got better at it. And I think we can get better at that. But it's what happens, I think, is, and there's lots of science for this too, right? The endorphins are created, these positive chemicals in our body are actually created when we say, thanks for that meal.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up to sweep off my step. Thanks for being here and just sitting with me.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, physically, physiologically, it helps us to feel just a little bit better. And one practice I do, and I still do it. I still do it to this day. It's called the alphabet, the gratitude alphabet.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling stressed, and I was doing this when I was grieving, when I was really struggling, I would go for a walk around the block. And you don't have to go for a walk. You can sit somewhere, sit on a bench, go for a bike ride, do whatever. And I would go through the alphabet and think of something I'm thankful for every letter of the alphabet.
Yeah.
So I would even, okay, A, let's think. Well, I just had an apple. That's good. I'm thankful for that. Doesn't even have to be profound. And then I would name the members of my family. You know, I've got a sister, B, Beth is my sister, you know, C is my son, Caleb. And so I go through the list and I just say, thanks for this and this.
Yeah.
And every single time, and I'm not exaggerating, when I would be finished that alphabet, my whole mood would have shifted.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't take away my sadness, didn't take away my loss, it didn't change my circumstances. But what it did, and this is what I'm such a believer in, is when you can't change your circumstances, change how you look at your circumstances because you can control that.
Yeah.
And you can control the response that you make to what's happened to you when you can't control actually what's happened to you.
Yeah. Interesting. I love talking about it. It's so soothing to know that we're not alone and there's things we can do. And it's okay to grieve because it's just part
Yeah.
of life. We all have to go through it. there's the ups, there's the downs, there's the in-betweens. And yeah,
Totally.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I think just what you've said right there is so powerful because if we can sort of live our lives kind of, I do use the word expecting this to be normal, expecting loss to be normal. Then when it actually happens, it's still extremely hard, but you're at least standing on the right foot in that you're not so shocked by it that you can't recover. And I know some losses are more difficult than others by 100 miles. But I also know that if we can kind of look out into our broken planet that we live on,
Yeah,
it's a lot of chaos, a lot of trouble, sickness, wars, accidents happen, and recognize the fact that things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. And bad things are going to happen to me. And I'm not going to get through life. Nobody gets through life without experiencing loss,
hmm,
including those that you love will actually someday lose you.
oh,
That's just the
sad
way it
but
is.
true. Yeah,
It is. So now that doesn't, not trying to kind of minimize the significance of loss, but sometimes the way we think about things can help us when we actually find ourselves in those places. And I think it's a lot better to form that mindset before things happen. Because after
yeah.
the fact, you're just reeling from the pain of it. So it's creating it's preparation for sometimes what's coming.
Got it.
And I'm not a doomsday person. Like I'm an optimist, but I'm
No.
also have that optimism tempered by there's reality. Things are going to happen. And I just want to be as ready as I can be because none of us live forever, and
Yeah.
we need to be able to hold life as a precious gift and be able to appreciate it and always be looking for the good. And then when the bad does happen, we still have that goodness that we can still hold on to while we're somehow trying to navigate this badness, this difficulty of loss, of adversity, of trauma, and all the things that happen in our lives.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We do have to kind of wrap it up. How
Okay.
did you want to leave off with everyone?
Yeah, I think if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, goodgriefjourney.com. So it's goodgriefjourney.com, all one word. There's a few places you can let me know. Send me an email, cam@goodgriefjourney.com. I'd love to give you 30 minutes of my time just to talk about whatever issues you're dealing with, whether you're helping grieving people or someone that's in grief. I'd love just to be able to support you in that. There's 50 ways to grieve your losses, a PDF you can download. And there's also a 7-day companioning course. I talked about that in the last episode. And if you want that 7-day companioning course, how to come alongside people that are grieving, go in there, sign up for that. All that's free. And also my book, Unlocking the Mystery of Grief. You can get a copy of that as well. And I'd love to continue our journey together in this area.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cam. You have a fantastic day. And to all of our listeners, have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the holidays. Okay. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.